had enough yet. I keep it tight, never walk, I'm a rocket. I got a beat in it, I got a grip in it. I got a beat, got a beat, got a beat, see the big gold chain that I'm rocking. I got the ring full of bling, never dropping. I got a stash for the cash that I owe to my brother. All up in the cup, just to live it up. Look how the streets turn cold when I walk it. It's my rules, no man can stop it. I throw a kick so quick that I leave her in the gutter. Leave her in the gutter, 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 gutter. All up in the cut, all up in the cut. I got the all up in, all up in the cover. All up in the cut, all up in the cut. I got the all up in, all up in the cover. All up in the cut, all up in the cut. All up in, all up in the cover. All up in the cut, all up in the cut. I got the all up in the cover. All up in the cut, all up in the all up in, all up in the all up in the cut, all up in the cut. All up in the cover. I know all these things never happen. I'm just a random girl with gentle manners. In my dreams I rock and I rule the wonderland. Rule the wonderland. Rule the wonderland. Rule the wonderland. 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 All up in the cut. All up in the cut. I got all up in the all up in the all up in the cut. All up in the cut. I got all up in the cut. All up in the cut. I got all up in the all up in the all up in the cut. All up in the cut.
Oh, rock-a-day, that me and fine, but oh, rock-a-day, that. Oh, rock-a-day, that me and fine, but kiss me, my sweet. Oh, rock-a-day, that me and fine, but oh, rock-a-day, that. Oh, rock-a-day, that me and fine, but kiss me, my sweet.
It looks like we got another minute or two. Great. Tabby's here as well. Good deal. How's it going, Charlotte? Thanks for being here with us today.
It's going great. Thank you for having me today. I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Charlotte,
Tabby, did you want to take it away?
did you get your peanut butter and jelly sandwich, Charlotte?
I did, and another nutter butter with it, so I'm all good.
Oh, so you got two
I'm
things.
peanutted up.
Yeah, well, thank you guys for joining us today. I'm super excited that we have Charlotte Mabry here with us. She'll tell you a little bit about herself. And for those of you who have heard her speak before, we know she always brings a lot of value. Some great tips, many years of experience, so she's failed her way forward, as we like to say. So we couldn't be more honored to have her here and have her talk about how to survive in this market, because she's seen the ups and the downs and the lefts and the rights. So take great notes. For those of you who are in coaching, we'll recap some of the notes in some of our future sessions. So be aware of that. And with that, Charlotte, since you had your nutter butter, you're ready to go.
I'm
Let's
all
do
sugared
this.
up and ready to go, so it's all good, all good. How's everybody today?
Great.
Awesome, fantastic. I appreciate you honoring me with taking your time to be here today. And so hopefully when we get done today, you're going to go, wow, this market is no big deal. And hopefully I can give you some feel for that and encourage you along the way. So we're going to talk a little bit today about 7 tips and 7 steps to thrive, not only survive, but thrive in today's market. And we're going to talk a little bit about the market, but one of the things that I always do when I'm teaching a class, when we're on a listing appointment, I always tell the agents on my team, we can't be the answer to someone's prayers unless we know what they're praying for. And so that's why we ask lots of good questions. So I'm going to start this today just like I do everything else. And, if you could walk away from this meeting together today and go, wow, I got the answer to this question. This question's been bugging me. I've wanted to know about it. I was worried about it. I'm concerned about it, whatever. And you could walk away from this meeting today having this information. What might that be? What could we answer today that would just make this day, April the 9th, be your day? Anything you want to know?
They're not shy, Charlotte, so.
Yes, they are.
Thinking. We're thinking.
No, really, they're not. And you got the chat bar as well, right?
Yeah, true. I mean, if you want to put something in the chat, that's true as well. And like I say, I did pull a fast one on you there because I'm making you think right off the bat. But
well, they joined for a reason today, right?
Yeah.
They said,
So-
man, this interests me. So Steve,
Yeah.
you go first.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much, Miss Charlotte, first of all. Thank you very much for
you're
being
welcome.
here with us. The biggest thing on my mind right now is I would say that I've always characterized myself as being a bit technology resistant, but I'm getting a lot better at it. I'm learning a lot.
Yeah, me too.
So what I feel like one of my biggest challenges right now would be is what is the best way to do the virtual open houses. I think I can handle a virtual showing. Essentially, it's doing the same thing I would do in person, but on a recording or on FaceTime. But I've seen several different theories, different types of applications. I'm trying to discern what would be the most effective way to do a virtual open house and be able to access those leads. That was my best lead source beforehand, and that whole model is changing. So that's where I'm the most confused at the moment.
Did you sneak and read my notes today? Because we're actually going to cover that. So awesome. What a great question. I promise we didn't plan this, okay? That's
Checks
awesome.
in the mail.
Yay. What else? What else can we cover today that might be something to make this April 9th really worth it for you?
I have something.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I don't have my photo up there.
No worries, Mickey.
No makeup today. I guess how to address the uncertainty of the market. I mean, right now we're all in the same kind of boat with the uncertainty, and people are asking me, well, what do you think's going to happen? I'm like, well, if I had the crystal ball, but how can I turn that into a positive and give people, you know, some really good information?
That's a great question. Aren't we getting that right now? You know, and none of us have that crystal ball. But, you know, if you think about it, whether someone is the best agent in town, or maybe we might quantify them as not the best agent in town, or whether they've sold a gazillion houses or they've only sold one, what's the one thing that we all have in common? You and me both today. What is that one thing?
We
We're
want
all sitting at
people,
home, right?
yeah,
Right. And I mean, that levels the playing field, guys. No one has an advantage over you right now. And those of us who've taken time like you, Mickey, to be here today, you have such a distinct advantage because you're using that time, because trust me, your competitors, they are there. Yeah, Stephen, they're thinking, they're uncertain about things too, right? But your competitors, they're all sitting out there, knees knocking a little bit. Trust me, you know, it's a level playing field. And so that's a great question, Mickey, a great question. What else? Anything else that we can talk about today that we might cover? Well, we're going to cover lots of things. So this is interactive. So along the way, if you go, oh my gosh, I'm looking to answer that question or ask that question, please feel free to chime in. This is a two-way street, and I'm all about not only talking with you, but sharing things with you today, and hopefully getting as much information your way as we can. And so I will do my best. Let me make that a little bit smaller there. So I am just working out of a little corner down there where I can see somebody talking. So just chime in and talk and all those good things. We are happy to talk about that. So to give you a little perspective for my team, this is my current team right now. I've got rock stars. They're all fantastic people. And we just have the best time, a lot of fun together. This July will be year number 34 for me in real estate sales. So longer than most of all of you are old. So I am the dinosaur in the room, and I own that. That's no problem. And all of my activity has been in the Chattanooga, North Georgia market. We're on the border, so we sell both those areas. And, you know, I was telling somebody the other day, we talk about this uncertain market and we don't know what to think about this. But if I can reassure you in any way, even though this is a new twist on how to do business and a new twist, we've not dealt with a virus before, there's always something in the market. When I started in 1986, July of 1986, things were clicking along. And then in October of 1987, so about a year later, I was with Coldwell Banker at the time. And back in the day, Coldwell Banker was owned by Sears. And so Sears owned Coldwell Banker, Dean Witter, and Allstate Insurance, all three of those. So we were in the local mall in an office area there. We had to man that mall. And on October the 19th, 1987, does anybody know what was going on then? What happened that day? It was the biggest one-time stock market crash in recent history. Dropped 22% in one day. I saw grown men crying, laying in the floor crying because they lost everything, right? And so we had a recession that followed that a little bit. And back in that day, we were selling homes. Interest rates were like 10 and 12%. And back then, you could assume a VA or an FHA loan and not have to qualify for it. So guess how we sold houses? That's what we did, as strange as that is. When you get a little further into the 1990s, there were all sorts of things, the dot-com crash, you know, things around the first part of 2000. Then I don't know if any of you guys have been through the 2008, 2010 adventure. Trust me, there's always something happening, right? And so even in our market here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, we've seen ups, we've seen downs, we've seen sideways. And yes, did it make a change for the moment in the market? No question about it. I mean, where you are in Nashville, honestly, I would think this would be a great thing for you, because your market was almost becoming, I think, unsustainable, out of control, so much a seller's market, that this will give the buyers a chance for it to level out just a little bit. So I feel like it's really a good opportunity for the market to just take a little bit of a breather. Who's got buyers and sellers that look like this right now? Anybody? I mean, you know, you talk to buyers right now and they're like flipping out, right? Or sellers, or maybe you've had an offer on a property where someone has written an offer like we did the other day, and then a shelter in place order came along, and this person called their agent and said, oh, nope, my job got cut back and I can't do that offer. And so that's you know, the buyers are flipping out, the sellers are flipping. Hey, this may look like you. This may be the agents in your office. And so what do you do in a market where everybody looks and thinks like this? And so this is what we're going to cover today, and hopefully give you some tips and tricks on that. So again, if you've got questions along the way, you need to shout. And wouldn't we like to be doing this right now? I mean, how do we get to this place, right? Where we're just like, I'm relaxed, I'm sitting by the lake, you know, I don't have a care in the world. That probably is not what you're feeling right now, right? But there is a way to make that happen. And so we're going to cover that today and do our best. A prayer helps, no question, Stephen. It definitely does. We are praying on a daily basis for all of this. So I'm thankful the Lord is listening, even in times like these. So I came up with, I know you all have read the Shift book, and so I have read that several times through different time periods. When it was originally written back in the early 2000s, definitely read it and appreciated everything it had to say then. But I'm one of those short attention span people, so I was like, how can I kind of consolidate the concepts of that down? And so I came up with what I feel are 7 essential steps that we can take right now in this market to make this market go for us. And so we're going to talk about these today and how we can, I guess, make it all go. So number 1 is mindset. You know, if you're feeling a little unnerved and thrown by all of this, I get it. Been there, done that. I've been through .com, Gulf War, 9/11, the 2008, 2010, where the bottom fell out of the market. Been there, been through all that, and it's quite unnerving. I definitely get that. And so mindset is so important. Once you've got your mind parked in the right place, then we got to think about mastering our money. How do we focus on the monies that we do have? And then to get the monies that we don't have, how do we make those leads happen? How do we make them come in the door? You know, we've been used to doing open house, like Steve was saying, and now I can't do those anymore. How do we do something different and make leads happen? And once we get those leads, how do we master the objections they're going to throw at us? Has anybody had somebody say, well, I'm going to wait this out? Yeah.
Oh, yes.
That's what
Oh, yes.
everybody's saying, right? Yeah, I mean, that's the only thing anybody is saying. So how do we encounter or change that? And so we're going to talk about some scripts today to master those objections. And, you know, once we've got those leads, there are some motivated sellers still out there. We're going to talk a little bit about how do we find them. And then for the buyers that are willing to buy right now, how do we make buying easy? How do we just make that process as simple as possible? And then the last thing we're going to look at is our schedule of how do we make time to actually make money. And when we're sitting at home, and I was talking to the ALC a little bit earlier today and talking about, you know, how different things are when we sit at home, the dog's barking. And My husband has a shop. You can hear that running in the background. Sorry about that. But I at least have shoes on today. There have been days that I've done meetings with my team where I'm like, wow, this is really strange. I've done that barefoot. But hey, you know, how do we change our schedule and our mindset to make time for money? So this is what we're going to cover today. Hopefully it will all make sense to you, and we will go from there. So let's talk about our mindset. You know, before we can really get started, we've got to conquer the fear that we have right now. And I am one of those glass half full as opposed to half empty type people. So forever the optimist. But yeah, I guess we have to ask ourselves, do we have problems or do we have opportunities? And, you know, you think about it, we were saying a minute ago, all of our competition, they're all stuck in their houses just like we are. Gosh, what an opportunity we have. It doesn't matter if you're brand new in this market or you're an old dinosaur like me. We all have the same level playing field right now. We've been given a new marketplace and a new way to inhabit that marketplace. So I look at that as an opportunity, not as a problem, but an opportunity. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. How can we get creative with the opportunity that we have been given? Do you ever feel like this? You know, I've been guilty of this in the past. We are, whatever comes at us from real estate market, you know, I just sort of hop in my boat and float along, right? If the market's going up and going upstream, you know, I've got my nice boat. I'm having a good day. It's out there. It's fun. You know, the sun's out. I'm eating my peanut butter sandwich out on the back of the boat, maybe fishing a little bit. You can tell I want to be on the lake, right? And, you know, we're just having a good time floating along. And then sometimes that market and the lake and the stream, it kind of turns around and it's going downstream, right? And before you know it, sometimes if you're not paying attention to where the water is moving and where you're floating along with that water, boy, wouldn't you hate to be the teenager who probably ran that boat into that wall, right? I'm sure whoever was that invested all that money in that fancy boat up on that wall is a little upset right now. But that's what can happen when we just follow along with the market of the moment. And I don't know about you, but I think so much of real estate sales over the past 4 or 5 years, I hate to admit it, it's not really been the agents selling things. It's been the houses selling themselves, right? I mean, if you think about it, the skill set to be a real estate agent over the past few years has been, okay, test number 1, can you fog a mirror? And test number 2, are you strong enough to hammer a sign in the ground, right? I mean, that's crazy. And I know we have more to it than that. But there's not been a lot of criteria that we've had to think about in the marketplace. Well, gosh, here is another opportunity. For folks like you and me, I mean, we're so fortunate at Keller Williams to have the opportunity to have training and coaching and information so that we can know the warning signs are there and know that it is time to get out of the boat that we've been in and not just float along, but actually get in the speedboat that's directing us in a whole different way, and everybody's chasing behind us. You have an opportunity to reset your business right now if you can just wrap your mind around it. And that's a tough one. It's hard to, when it seems a little scary, it's hard to wrap your mind around that sometimes. But you know, you can't let the changes in the market get you down. We have to continue to do what's right. And we have to continue to do what you need to do. Let's say that your job, you're an agent on your own without a team, and your job is to get appointments, right? I mean, that's what we're looking to do, is get appointments right now. So what is it that you need to do? You need to get appointments, and you got to have a schedule to do it, right? So there's this, you got to keep on the schedule, keep it going. Even if you're sitting at home or out on your back deck, whatever it is, you've got to have that schedule and keep doing what it is that you need to do. If you're someone like me that has a team, my job for my team is to coach them, lead them, encourage them. So I'm doing that. I'm doing it on a schedule. It's on my calendar, and I'm doing what I need to do. So it doesn't matter what the market is doing. We just need to do what we need to do and be thankful for the opportunity that the playing field, well, it's kind of gotten level here. So it makes it a lot easier. Any thoughts on this? So this is kind of a trick question. But I'm going to throw it out there. Suddenly the market changed and we're doing business differently. And I'm sure that all of you, Tabby, I'm sure has done a great job of getting you to have your goals set out, laid out, written out for this year, for the year 2020, having 2020 vision. And oops, here comes a crazy thing along the way. Should we change our goals? I'm just curious, what's your opinion on that? Anybody got one?
I think maybe we shouldn't change our goals, maybe change the way we are trying to achieve them.
So tell me more about that.
Well, the way we've been doing things, or at least I can speak for myself, a lot of those ways are not going to apply going forward, or will have to be adapted to a different way going forward. So I don't think it's necessary to change our goals, but we do have to change the way we do things for sure.
Awesome. That's great. That's so typical of even like a career over time. If we are working in real estate through the years, back when I first started selling homes, there were no cell phones, no computers, not even a fax machine. You remember what that was, right? So, I mean, there's so much change through the years, and you just have to adapt. And if you adapt, you can hang in there. So great feedback. Any other thoughts on that? I think it's probably
some good ones in the chat, Charlotte.
Okay, let me get my chat box.
Lori said, yes, you have to double them, right? You have to double them to hit where you were going to be. And then Daniel mentioned that the goal doesn't change, the amount of leads do.
Ah, great ideas, great ideas. Yes. I mean, Gary Keller is saying right now to what? Double up on leads and then triple up on training and you know, all of those things. So it will take, the effort will be different to hit the same goal. I do think probably 30 days from now, we'll be able to maybe tell a little more about where our goals need to be. But I think changing your goal right now is probably too soon. Something that we need to think about, of just keeping our mindset. Again, I think it's, if you keep focused on the opportunity and not the problem, you're going to be just fine. You should, and again, that's what most of the people are not doing, right? And that'll put you further ahead. Any comments or thoughts on just mindset at all?
Charlotte, would you go back to we had one comment previously. Would you go back to the previous point you had made about appointments? You said that yes. Doing what's right, we know our job is to set appointments. However, you made a clarifying point earlier today about what that means, just so that people's mindset will adjust around that.
Sure. Great point. You know, if your job is to get an appointment, and in the past an appointment meant going out and showing a property, or an appointment meant going out and listing a property. And maybe right now you can't do that. Okay, let's define an appointment as something different. So one of the things I've challenged my team to do right now is just get an appointment to get an appointment. In other words, hey, Mr. Meyer, you know what? We can't go look at houses. The one you're wanting to look at, it's not ready yet, and it's occupied, and the seller won't let us come in there. But why don't we set an appointment to meet up again via Zoom in 2 weeks? And we're going to see what the status is. And you and I are going to develop a game plan so that 2 weeks from now, we really have a plan. And one of the scripts we're doing right now is, you know, if you think about a race and everybody's lined up at the starting line of the race and they shoot the gun and everybody goes tearing down the road. Don't you know, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, that when the screen is lifted, when the curtain is lifted, that is exactly what's going to happen in real estate. If you're standing there and you don't have a plan, you don't have the right race shoes on, gosh, you don't even know what your number is, you're going to get run over by everybody tearing out of the starting gate going to get real estate. And I sure don't want that to happen to you. So let's make an appointment to have an appointment to talk about that. So that's a different way to go about having an appointment. Does that make sense, Tabby?
It was, yes, thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So we're not going to change our goals. We're going to keep the mindset. So one of the first things we need to think about, perhaps if it's not coming in the door, what are we going to do to master the money that we do have? And that's, I think, a good thought pattern. The best place to start is at the money, right? I mean, there are things that we cannot control right now. We cannot control what happens with the market. I wish we could, but we can't. But we can control our own money and the expenses that we are spending. So we're going to look a little bit at that. And if you think about it, when we go out every day and sell houses, we are working our way towards revenue, right? We're exchanging time for money, hopefully efforts for money, hopefully selling properties for money. We work our way into having dollars come in the door. However, we expense manage our way to profit. You know, what's the difference between revenue, making money, and the P word of profit? What's the difference? Is there a difference?
Topic, Dwayne.
I'm sorry, what now?
I said it's Dwayne's favorite topic. I'm sure he has something to say.
Revenue is just that. It's income. It's what comes into the business. And profit is what's left over after you pay all of your costs and expenses that you incur to be in business.
So there's something left over?
There's supposed to be.
There's supposed to be, right?
If you save $10, all of that goes to the bottom line.
Absolutely. So that is so critical. And, you know we should be watching this at all times, but in markets where it's a little different, you need to be a little different as well, right? And be thinking about profit. And I don't know about you, but oops, I'm so sorry I hit that too far there. When times are good, our expenses sort of creep up there, don't they? Well, you know, that lead generation tool, that sounds pretty cool. I think I'll buy some of those. And I might go buy me some Zillow leads, and I'll spend some money over here, and I might hire me a couple extra people on my team. And, you know, those costs just go up and up and up. And so it is a good time when things are a little different to immediately, I don't think it's a good time, it's immediate, to look at things that you can cut back. And I would challenge you to look not only at your business and your business expenses, but also at your personal expenses. You know, what are you cutting back personally right now? And maybe challenge you to do 10 to 20% out of your monthly budget. I'm at about 16 or 17% that I cut about 3 weeks ago. That is everything I can cut without going into payroll. And so the next step is I have to let somebody go. So I'm going to do everything I can to keep my business going without having to touch payroll. But if you wait, let me give you the story and why I'm so sensitive to this. And Dwayne maybe have one of these stories. He probably doesn't, but a story where you're so sensitive to this. In that 2008-2010 time period, I had a team, had payroll, all of that. And I'd never seen a market where house prices went down like that. And so each month I would go, well, next month will be better. And then the next month would come along and I go, oh, well, next month will be better, right? And I next monthed my way for 2 years and found myself $200,000 in debt because I had borrowed money, things to carry things, and I had refused to cut anything back. And so thankfully this time, that'll never happen to me again. There's always a gift from a shift, and we're going to talk about that today. There's a gift in the middle of this. And for me, having experienced that last time is now I know my numbers. I really, really, really know my numbers. And so the gift to me was knowing that, hey, I need to cut on the front end and not just get trapped in the back end there somewhere. So it is really important to watch those numbers and stay on top of that. So my question would be, is there a way that you can cut some expenses? And isn't this true? I mean, you probably have this in your MLS, or maybe, hopefully not as much in your market center, but I'm sure you do in your MLS, where people are hung up on being a top producer, right? You talk to people and they're like, well, I sold so many million of this, or I did that, or, I sold 100 transactions last year, or whatever it was. And we get hung up on gauging how cool people's businesses are based on what they produce, not based on how much profit they have. To me, I'd like to see an award out there for whose profit percentage was the highest, right? I mean, I don't know about you, I'd rather work a little less and make more money rather than work more and maybe, everybody knows me and I'm strung out there on a lot of expenses, but I didn't have any profit there. And I know you've seen people I have where there are people out there that, they look and smell really good, but they don't make any money, right? And I guess I would challenge each of you, do you really know your numbers? Does anybody use like QuickBooks Online or anything? Hopefully you've got some things there that, really and truly, that you watch on a daily basis, a weekly basis, a monthly basis to know your numbers. And so, Stephen, I see your message there about, for my first business, for things going up and down like that. I get that. I totally get it. You just have to watch your numbers. So I highly recommend that you don't think about your business from this day forward as whether or not you're a top producer. You need to think about it as someone, hey, I'm making the most profit. Does that make sense? You can't save your way to prosperity. Would you agree or disagree with that statement?
If you don't make any sales, you're not going to make
That's
any
right.
profit, period.
Sure, absolutely. So, and I think of people today like my parents that have money in a CD and they've saved that money through the year. CDs today are paying what? Half of a quarter of a kind of a percent, right? I mean, it's hard to save your way to prosperity. That being said, it is really hard to spend your way out of a jam. If you're upside down in business and things are going tough, throwing more money at it is not a good idea either. So I think the reality is somewhere in between all of that, right? Is that we have to have some savings, 6 months of things in a set aside, have some investments because you might need it. Who knows what this will do? I think it's important to think both things. So what kind of feedback would you have on that? Anybody, other thoughts on the difference between profit and revenue? Awesome. So hopefully we have managed to, master our mindset and get our mind in the right place. And then we've worked on our monies and being sure that we've mastered that. All right, that's all great. Now we're in this weird market. How do we make leads happen, right? And, all we got to do is find some buyers and sellers. That sounds easy, right? Unfortunately, like you say, if your lead generation opportunity was open house, and our MLS and our governor says you can't do those, gosh, all of a sudden your opportunity changed. Think about back in the day, 2010, there were agents and teams that were short sale specialists. And if you don't know what a short sale is, just know that it's not anything like its name. There's nothing short about a short sale. But if you had to get creative in selling property where people were upside down in what they owed on the property being more than it was worth. But if you think about that was all their business, and suddenly when the market got better, there were no more short sales. How did they go about making leads happen? They had to shift and twist with the market, and that's what we're going to talk a little bit about today. So when all the buyers and sellers look just like that, and maybe you're looking like that too, and everybody's afraid to buy or sell, hey, it comes back to the basics. Okay. It is all about the basics, which is picking up the phone, right? I mean, we've got to pick up the phone and actually talk to people. I know that's radical
Right.
and strange, but I think that's the first place to start. And it's not necessarily about selling right now. I think it's calling people, checking in, going, hey, how are you doing? One of the scripts we've been working on, how's it going? You know, how can I help you? Maybe you've got your small business, and how can we help your business? Well, how does that make you feel right now? How are you guys feeling about all this? Well, does that make a change in your buying and selling thoughts for a thing? Okay, well, why don't we set an appointment to make an appointment later? And I think that's just, that's what our conversations are right now. How can let's set up a time to talk 30 days from now or 3 weeks from now. And I'd love to visit back with you again and see how things are going for you then. So that's the appointment we're setting, is just to have those conversations. I think that's pretty much all we can do in many respects right now.
And Charlotte,
Yes, ma'am.
one thing I know you had mentioned and that we have found is that right now, these last couple of weeks, and hopefully the couple of weeks ahead, is an opportunity that our conversion rates are at the highest
Oh,
for
yes.
dials to contacts, right? Because we don't only measure how many dials we have, how many people are we physically having a conversation with. And we are seeing that rate, you know, at that 85, 90, 95% every single day for those folks who are still reaching out and making those care calls to their database. And I know you had mentioned, you know, if you're afraid to call right now, when everybody's answering, it's going to be so much harder when we have to make 200 calls in order to talk to 2 people.
Right. Absolutely. And again, this is why we don't call it a problem. We call it an opportunity, because not only are all of our competitors stuck at home, all of our customers and clients are stuck there too. So we have that opportunity to reach out to them. And so here's some great ways to go about that. We can consistently check in. I think you put that on your calendar. Hey, I want to be sure on this day of the week I'm calling and just doing those care calls. I think, again, we have to be careful of this is the market of the moment. We have to have the message associated with the market of the moment. And I think that's more in the line of just, hey, are you guys okay? You know, can I go do a toilet paper run for you? You know, whatever it might be. And to that end, maybe there's someone in your community or someone in your sphere of influence that is struggling right now, either economically or maybe an elderly family. Could we do a delivery service for them? Can we bring something their way or have it delivered for them? I think that's a great way to give back to your community and to your sphere. And along the way, do your best to support local business. You know, that's something that we are always keen on anyway, of how can we help our local business owners? And this is a really good opportunity right now to make that happen. I know one of the young men on one of our teams in Murfreesboro has put together a Facebook group of businesses in that area. And in 1 week, he had 1,100 members in his Facebook page that he is now working with. He's built himself a sphere of influence of business owners that he's doing a great job with. So it's a good opportunity to support local businesses, even in this market. And this drive-by visits from a distance, I love this. One of the girls on my team, Katie, is just such a thoughtful person. And one of the girls on my staff, our transaction coordinator, her daughter had her 14th birthday last week. Well, what a bummer to be 14 and stuck at home and you can't even go celebrate your birthday with your friends. And so Katie on my team packed up her children, got in the car, got some happy birthday banners, hung them on her car, and drove out in the front of her house and sang happy birthday to her from a distance. Well, as silly as that is, that made this girl's day. I mean, can we do something like that for maybe one of our clients? That's something that maybe we can come up with a creative way to reach out and do things for our clients from a distance. Are they going to remember that? You know, they are definitely going to remember that. And so we may need to do things more frequently, like the newsletters we send out. If we send them out once a quarter, we might need to do it once a month. Or if we're doing them monthly, we might need to do it every other week. Just something to stay more in communication, because right now is the time to over communicate on everything for sure. Facebook contacts. I mean, the people that are on your Facebook page or Instagram or TikTok or whatever you're doing, you know, you want to be sure you stay in contact with them, be sure that you are in front of them. So number one, they know that things are going well and that you are, while doing business differently, you are still doing business. We've been posting on our Facebook page, our team Facebook page, how many houses went under contract that week, how many new listings, how many houses went under contract, and how many closings there were each week, so that people know those numbers and realize, wow, there's stuff going on, and there is. Any questions on that, or maybe some tips for me that you might add to that? Anything that you're doing? Awesome. And here's another one. Our local school system is obviously out like yours is, but we have children in our community that unfortunately the only time they get meals is at school. And so our community school system now has a program that I think it's 3 days a week. They deliver meals into certain communities on the school buses, and the kids can come and get the opportunity for that. So some of our folks have been volunteering to ride the school bus and help deliver those meals. Obviously, they're taking precautions and doing all the things, masked up, gloves, booties, all the whole thing. But that's another way to get out there, help your community, and do something a little different. So just something fun to do. And so I've challenged my team members to sort of stick to a schedule here. And this is just arbitrary, but something that you could definitely do. So on Mondays, we're looking at our top 20 connections. And, you know, it might be a business owner, you know, it might be someone who's always sent you business, whatever. But then you schedule a virtual meeting with them. And, you know, your goal in calling or reaching out to those top 20 is to get somebody to get an appointment, right? Just so that you can talk with them and say, let's look at your plan. Let's look at your neighborhood and see where your house, you know, what the value of your house is right now. On Tuesdays, we focus on calling our deals that are in progress. So being sure, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, about bulletproofing transactions here in a little bit, but being very proactive and over communicating with those deals that are in progress. On Wednesdays, we use our CRM. We use Commissions Inc. as a CRM, and so we prospect in our hot leads and old leads. I was looking on Tuesday of this week. In a 7-day time period, we had 318 people log on to our CRM to look at houses. 318 people. Now, why do you think that was?
People are at home with nothing much to do.
That's absolutely okay. That's number one. But I bet in that 318 people, somebody's plans changed, right? And so we have a great opportunity to reach out to those people and go, hey, are you just sitting at home bored, or have your plans changed? What a great script. Well, hey, I'm just sitting home bored. Awesome. Well, if you were going to buy something, when would that be? Have you thought about that? Have you thought about the deals? It's a great conversation starter. So check and see who's logging in. They're on in droves. I think today on our CRM, we had, by about lunchtime, I think we had 20 or 25 people already on there. So people are out looking at property. On Thursdays, we are looking at calling our top past clients. So we're going through our database and reaching out calls to them. And then on Fridays, we've looked at who do we know that are local business owners, or maybe even builders as well, and going, okay, how can we help you? How can we serve you? But we at least have some sort of ideal weekly schedule, and we're sticking to that even though we're sitting at home in our jeans barefoot. At least from the neck up, we look okay, right? So we are working away on a schedule. Anybody else doing something like that at all? Anything? Hopefully this will give you some ideas on a way to make those leads happen. You know, one of the things too that I see when these leads are coming in the door is is how the market is changing. And this leads to our next point here on handling objections. For those of you who have been around, say 10 years or so, and saw a market shift back in the day, how buyers and sellers think changes sometimes very quickly overnight. A good example, one of the agents on my team had an offer on a property, and the house hadn't been on the market 2 days. Nice house, nicely priced, right in line with the market. And immediately the offer came in. This was like a $200,000 house. We still have those in our market. Okay. Our average price is $225,000. So we have to hustle around here. Okay. We have to sell lots of homes to keep up with you guys. So this is like a $200,000 home, and the offer came in, I don't know, $10,000 or $12,000 below asking price. And they wanted $7,500 in closing costs. Well, immediately the sellers were like, huh, we're not even going to respond to that. They were offended, right? And the buyers on the other end are going, hey, let's offer half price, right? The agent had to work them up to even get them that, because the buyers are thinking, hey, this market changed. It's time for me to get a deal. And the reality is somewhere in between, right? Somewhere in that space in between, where sellers now are going to have to understand that not everyone's going to make a full price offer anymore. And buyers are going to need to understand it's going to take sellers a little time to come off the mountain peak where they've been. And so in handling objections, whether it's offers that we get or in us trying to get an appointment from one of the leads that we've mastered, ultimately we got to get a name and number and an appointment to do something. So how do we handle those objections? And, you know, if you've got leads, maybe you, however you go about getting leads, to give you, I told the ALC earlier, about half of our business each year comes from our sphere of influence. A third of it comes from, I do weekly talk radio. I have for about 12 years. So I've built up my own sphere of influence within a talk radio group of listeners. And the rest of our business is digital. And it is much easier to get leads than it is to close them, right? And, you know, it makes us feel really good. Oh, I've got 50 leads out there. Well, that's great, but what kind of business is coming from those? And, you know, while we are having conversations today and people are going, well, I'm going to wait. And I get that, right? I mean, I'm all about waiting, and we do need business for the future. However, we've got to come up with conversations and scripts today to overcome those objections. The biggest one being, well, I think I'll just wait and see what happens, right? So as we do that, remember, anybody that inquires about anything right now, those inquiries are gold, right? I mean, if somebody calls about a property or text you or whatever it is, or you get an email and they say, hey, I want to know about 123 Main Street, you need to drop everything, right? Those inquiries are gold, and responding to them very quickly is important. And so, I mean, I am assuming that your biggest objection you're hearing right now is, hey, I'm not quite ready to do something. I'm waiting this out. How have you responded to that? What's been your script?
On the seller side, I just used this a couple of days ago for a listing that I have. We don't have any idea for sure what's going to happen going forward. I think we can all agree that we're probably headed to some level of recession. We don't know to what severity. However, I do know what the market is doing now and what it has done the last month, week, and 3 months. So we know where we are right now. So let's take the offer we have right now because we don't know where we're going exactly in the future.
That's a great script. That's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Miss Tabby just taught us that recently.
That's awesome.
Or Miss Sharon, one or the other.
Well, and you just know, we only know what we know right now, right? We don't have a way to gauge the future. And, you know, when somebody is offended about an offer that comes in, to me, I think a great script is, you know, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, instead of being mad at the people who wrote the offer, Why don't we be mad at the people who looked at your house online, all those people who have flipped through your pictures and didn't make an offer? Let's be mad at them. Or if you've had showings, maybe there's been 6 showings and you got 1 offer. Well, let's be mad at those 5 people who looked at it and didn't make an offer rather than being upset with this one. I think that's a great script on that. So thank you for sharing that. Anything else that you're doing to overcome that objection right now?
I think another great point to talk to people about is how the interest rates are as low as they've been in, in many, many years. And we do know that it's not going to stay that way forever. So now is a great time to take advantage of that.
Absolutely. That's a great script too. It's wonderful. I mean, the interest rates are incredible, and every little bit they go up takes hundreds of dollars of buying power out of your purse.
Yeah.
Awesome. So now more than ever, we've got to be practicing, right? What are we practicing? We're just now doing it. What are we doing? Script practice, right? I mean, there's nothing more mundane, I think, than script practice, but there's nothing more essential than script practice. And there are 2 ways to do it. You can do it the hard way, like me, to guinea pig on hundreds and hundreds of people over 30 years. Or you can save yourself the heartbreak of doing it the wrong way sometimes, and just to practice and get together with a group of people and practice those scripts. I think that's really, really important. And people have legitimate reasons for waiting right now, don't they? I mean, if we had someone the other day, I think I said this earlier, that made an offer and before we could respond to it, his company cut them all back to half of salary, keeping them there, but their half a salary was, so he immediately withdrew the offer. I get that. I mean, I totally understand that. And so we want to encourage people, but yet in the meantime, we need to have good scripts where we can keep them online. And if nothing else, get that appointment to get the appointment, right? So if we look at this as a great diagram, you'll see this in all kinds of Keller things through the way there. But if we are capturing those leads, we've got to figure out some way to connect with them. And that's where the care calls come in, or checking in with people, or delivering things, or whatever. And if we can close for an appointment, that's great. If not, we've got to put them in our calendar to cultivate them. Not just put them in a CRM and let it drip on them. We've got to actually cultivate that by being involved. So I just think that's a great diagram right there. Any other questions on mastering any objections? Anything that maybe you had an objection here lately that bugged you and you'd like to have let's script practice now. Anybody? Well, we're going to talk about some things that we come across for sellers, so in objections there as well.
I have one real quick, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
I'm working my way through this right now. So my sellers are saying that, well, I can do a cash out refinance now. If I have to come down to this price, I can do a cash out refinance now, and I'm going to make the same amount of money, a profit, put in my bank account. I can do that by cash out refinancing and not have the effort and trouble of moving the family and going through all that expense.
So I would ask what their motivation is. Why did they have their house on the market in the first place?
Yeah.
The only reason was to get the equity, the profit out of the house.
Okay. So here's my script for that, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. This is a market for people who have to sell, not for people who want to sell. So if you can accomplish your goals and you don't have to sell, that might be the best thing to do. Here's the only downside to refinancing. Let's say you have a $450,000 house, Mr. Seller, and you pull out every bit of equity you can to do your cash out refinance. What happens if the market falls apart and now your $450,000 house is only worth $400,000 and you've refinanced it in such a way that you're upside down? Not only did you not get the equity out you want, now you're upside down. Would you consider that a possible problem? So there's the downside to refinancing. And economically speaking, you're front loading all your interest again. You're starting all over paying payments on a house. You'll never get it paid off that way. If the goal is just to have a certain amount of cash, let's see if we can't come up with a more creative way to get a buyer to buy it off right now in the market.
Thank you. That's what I was trying to figure out how to articulate, was by refinancing, they're front loading their interest again.
Yeah.
Help me figure out how to articulate that to them. I appreciate that.
No, you're welcome. I'm making it up as I go along, but that is the truth. I mean, they are front loading that, and they take the risk of refinancing in such a way that the market changes. I mean, I don't know if it's going to go up or down because I don't have that crystal ball, right? So we just don't know. So let's look a little bit at sellers. Well, so here's a good question to your point. Why in the world would somebody want to sell right now? I mean, why did, in a market as swirly as this, why would somebody sell their home anyway?
A good example is a job relocation.
And we're going to see those, right? Unfortunately, we're going to see that.
And we could be at the top of the market for a period of time.
Absolutely. So, I mean, there are a lot of reasons for people to be motivated and to sell right now. And, you know, in finding them, oh, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but it takes more calls, more work, and more prospecting to find the motivated. That's really what Shift talks about. Keller Williams talks about. It's all about finding the motivated, right? And unfortunately, life still happens, right? Even though we're all cooped up in a house, marriages are happening. I'm sure you've seen it on Facebook where people have a quarantine marriage and, you know, do whatever they can to have their marriages happen, and people watch on Facebook. And unfortunately, from being cooped up, right, divorces are happening. 9 months from now, we're probably going to be selling a lot of houses for babies being born. Job transfers still happen. Unfortunately, people will lose their jobs during this time. Investors will find opportunities. Builders are going to need help. I've been through several times where builders went out of business because they didn't plan well and didn't see the market changes coming like they were. So it comes back to motivation, right? How motivated are these people? And we can always find people that have motivation to move, right? So how do we find those sellers? So I want to give you some suggestions here. Facebook Live, who does Facebook Live? That is the best thing since sliced cheese. There are so many different ways to use Facebook Live. You can do virtual tours of listings that you already have. Do those on Facebook Live. People know you're out showing your properties that way. I do my radio show, even though I'm on the radio, I have a camera going and we're doing Facebook Live that way. I show meetings, our team page. We show things that we're doing, houses we've closed, houses we've sold. We just want people to know we are still doing the work and we're doing our best to stay out in front of them. And I'm looking for direct messages on Facebook that I can send maybe someone that I see where their marriage is coming up, and hey, I'll direct message them if you're looking at buying, or maybe there's something where they found out they're taking a job transfer. I'm going to direct message them about selling their home. So there's so many creative ways that you can do it. For sale by owners, still needed. Expired listings, those kind of come back along too. Not had those in a while. But I think if we show people that our still moving and that we are still making things happen, I do think we have an opportunity to, to show people that it is time to sell their home. And one of the things we're getting ready to do is a seller seminar, part of it on Facebook, and then part of it they have to subscribe to by Zoom. So hopefully we'll get people to raise their hand, and, we'll be sharing tips on what creative things we're doing to sell homes for $1 in this market. Any other things that you're doing specifically right now to find sellers? Any other ideas, anything? We're having good success with those things that are there. So in working with sellers there, we just have to do a little bit more work, right? and get as creative as possible. We're doing our best to stay in front of people, both things that we do digitally, email, Facebook, phone calls. We are just in their face, and that's what we all need to be doing, is engaged with, particularly with our sphere of influence as we can be, to find those people along the way. Any other feedback on working with sellers right now? So if you've had those buyers back out and get cold feet, right? You know, anybody had a deal fall apart this past week? No? Okay, well, consider yourself fortunate. We've definitely had some buyers get that cold feet, and they're like, you know, hey, I'm not sure about my job, or something that specifically did change with their job. And even the lenders right now, I was in a nationwide meeting last Friday, I believe, and a lender that was there is a nationwide lender. He was talking about there are certain things that they actually have disappeared. For example, jumbo loans. Most all of the jumbo loan products are gone, and the lenders can't get their money on money because the investors for those products, the people that provide the money, don't want the risk and only getting a 2 or 3% return. They're not willing to take it for that. And so jumbo market monies are gone. Credit scores have all gone up. We've had a couple of people that one, they had their house for sale and had it under contract. They were buying another house. The house they were buying on that loan, come to find out their credit score, they were going VA. Their credit score was no longer the allowed credit score for VA. That changed overnight within VA. And so they were not able to purchase the house they were going to purchase because suddenly they didn't qualify for it anymore. So they had to back out of that and back out of selling their home because the mortgage all changed. So one of the things that I think is critically important right now is to be sure that your loan is actually pre-approved for your buyer, and continue to follow up with the lender. Lending process is changing by the day, shoot, by the hour. The rules are changing. And what buyer you think might actually be qualified right now, they may not be qualified. So it's changing. So definitely follow up and stay on top of that. And I would make that contact with my buyers and with my lenders, something that I have buyers who could, refuse to pay. I got you. Okay. That's a great thing, Lori. You know, buyers who could close early and they refuse to do that. I mean, again, people don't know what they don't know, right? And things are changing very quickly. So it's good to get them closed as quick as possible. But I would make systematic contact with people, schedule it on your calendar, not just once a week. I think you need to be 2 or 3 times a week in conversation with your lenders and with your buyers. And we got to keep those buyers' feet from getting cold. And so I think you have to over communicate with your buyer. Maybe you send them a video of you standing out in front of the house. Hey, I was driving by 123 Main Street, and you know, I was thinking about you, and I just wanted to do a quick video of telling you I cannot wait for you guys to get moved in here. Isn't that dogwood tree back there pretty? It's so bloomed out. It looks fantastic. You're going to love living in this house. And you send them a quick video. Or maybe you do pictures of the inside of the house and you go, wow, you know, I was looking back at your new house and these pictures, and I was thinking about your sofa over there and how great it's going to look over there in that sunroom. Or, you know, you had been talking about buying that new furniture that you're not going to do before we close, right? But how cool that chair is going to be over there. Or, you know, something to have that communication. I don't think you just put these people under contract and just assume they're not going to that something's not going to happen. So we do want to encourage people, don't push them. Obviously, that's not what I'm telling you to do, but I think we've got to over communicate right now and keep them hyped up and excited about what they're doing. And that helps us bulletproof the transaction. One of the things our buyer specialists are giving to their buyers right now when they first get under contract, or even as they're looking at properties, they're giving them an old copy of an old home inspection where we've marked out the names to protect the innocent and all that. But they can see what a real live home inspection looks like and see that, yeah, there's going to be stuff that comes up in a home inspection, particularly since all the houses that are left to buy today, they've all got something wrong with them, right? I mean, that's just part of it. And so we want them, we're going to do our best to bulletproof the transaction and have that up front. We're also going to be sure their loan's approved, that we're on it, nothing is changing. And back to what I was saying, when people are at home and they're frustrated and pinned up at home, those arguments start, right? And then they get to being frustrated over, well, you're the one that wanted to buy that house. No, you're the one that wanted to buy that house. And so we've got to stay in front of them. We've got to be encouraging them that they did make the right decision, that even though the market is squirrely out there, or they perceive it to be, it's our job to keep them positive and excited about going. Any suggestions on how to encourage an investment buyer who wants to wait? You know, I probably would, you know, one of the things on an investment buyer, it might be better to wait. I mean, you just don't know. That being said, could you not make an offer on a property subject to not only an appraisal now, but maybe an appraisal, let's say you're going to wait 30 days to close, maybe doing an appraisal the week of closing, just to verify the funds, or maybe some other way to see if there's any change in pricing in 30 days. I mean, if you're making your money on the front end of an investment, you're going to be fine anyway. But in a market that's declining, it's a little tougher, isn't it, to really stay on that? So yeah, I would definitely watch that. Pricing is critical right now, and that's tough. So did that answer that question? Let me go back and look at that again, just to be sure that I got that okay. I just think we've got to encourage people that to do something. But again, if they have a job situation or a credit score that no longer qualifies, I mean, there's not a whole lot you can do about that. That's where you do the appointment to make the appointment. We just want to stay in touch. I just want to make an appointment to stay in touch. And that way we haven't blown them out of the water, but we keep encouraging them. Does that make sense? Any other thoughts on working with buyers right now that you have? Sorry, you can hear the the workshop going in the background. Have y'all had the dogs and the kid? You know, Mom, I gotta go to the bathroom, right? You know, all the stuff. It's just business as usual today, right? We work around what we have to do. So in all of these things going on, how do we make time to really make money, right? I mean, so if you think about it as an agent, we talked about this a while ago in the ALC meeting, there's really only 4 ways that we make money. I mean, if you think about it as an agent, there's just 4 ways to make money. And the first of those, it's the P word, right? Prospecting. And so we are at home, we've got to be creative on how many different ways we can prospect. And like Tabby said, if you're scared to do it now, you're in trouble, because you've got a literal captive audience here. We can absolutely have the captive audience. So prospecting is something that we can do every day to make money. Getting listings on the market. Hey, we're listing houses right now as we speak. We're going on listing appointments, sometimes virtually, sometimes in person. We are getting those listings out there. We're getting offers on listings. So we are able to do things virtually to be able to get listings out there. Yep, you got to get out there with buyers. Again, that can be showing a buyer with a virtual open house. And don't let me forget, we're going to talk about virtual open houses here in just a second, and how we can use technology for that. But working with buyers, that's, you know, that's how we make money. We've got to be out there with them, and obviously getting things closed. And of course, this picture was pre-quarantine, right? They're not 6 feet apart, but anyway, you know, those are really the 4 ways we make money. We're prospecting, we're listing a house, we're actively in the process with the buyer, or we're actually having a closing. Otherwise, everything else can be delegated, right? So even at this time where we're at home, if we're busy lick 'em, stick 'em, and putting things on postcards, we're busy. But does that really make us be productive? Probably not. Our time would be better spent on our schedule to be doing something of prospecting or whatever. Facebook, we can get really involved in, excuse me, in Facebook, but is what we're doing on Facebook stalking somebody else, or are we actually prospecting? Same things with signs and paperwork and all those things. All of that can be delegated to somebody. Whether you use your children, the people stuck in your house with you, or you actually have a team and you have staff. The point is on this is today we need to really, really focus on what is it that makes us money, and be sure that our calendar reflects that. Okay. So I've given you 7 quote unquote simple steps. They're not easy. They're not easy, right? They're simple, but they're not exactly easy. And, we need to remain focused on what we can do, not what we can't do. I mean, there's plenty that we can't do, right? I mean, technically speaking, we're not supposed to go to Lowe's, although everybody does, right? Technically speaking, we're not supposed to gather in groups. I mean, there's a lot of things we can't do, but you know what? I'm focusing on the things I can do right now. And who knows, we might make less money, but by focusing on what we can do, we might actually make more money. Again, I'm that optimist, right? I'm not looking at what my problem is. I'm looking at what my opportunity is. And now I have an opportunity to potentially make more, because there's always a gift in the shift. Like we said earlier, my gift from 10 years ago and getting myself $200,000 in debt is that today I'm fully out of debt, and that I go into this opportunity that we have with money in the bank, savings out there, things paid for. I have reduced my expenses. I would never have thought about that before. And I'm so thankful that I had the other thing happen, because now I know what to look for. And if your goal this year was to make $100,000 this year, what are you doing today to act your wage? I mean, to make $100,000, how many listings do you need? How many buyers do you need? I mean, I was telling ALC earlier, I've got a program set up for my team members that if somebody wants to make $65,000 this year, I know exactly how many houses based on our average sales price in our area that they need to sell, so that they have $65,000 left over after splits with me, after cap with KW, after everything, how much work that takes. And so they know exactly what they've got to do to act their wage. They know exactly how many people they've got to talk to each week. Do you know that for yourself? Have you sat down and done that work so that you can actually tell how much work you know? Oh, Dwayne, awesome. I could tell Dwayne looks sharp. So he's been teaching how to do that and have your business plan written out. And so now is the time to step up to the plate and for us to really act our wage. Instead of staying home cleaning our closet, even though we want to, it is the time to get out there and to do something a little bit different. And so I love this quote. My mission in life is not merely to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, some humor, and some style. And so I've actually changed our Facebook page for our team Facebook page. Looks like this. And I just, I'm excited about the opportunities that we have in growing our team right now. And so this is some of my contact information. And before I open it up to questions, I wanted to answer the question about virtual open houses. And so, when you are used to doing open houses, virtual open houses they're cool, but they're a lot different. So one of the things, and again, I want to get you guys feedback too. One of the things that we've done them several different ways. One has been physically going to the house, but it's been a vacant house or a new construction. And we've walked through that, and then we've put it out there on Facebook. We've bought Facebook advertising for people that either had made note of, you know, how you can buy things in Facebook on either people that are looking for houses or interested in that neighborhood or belong in that neighborhood or whatever. We were doing things that way. We've done some creative things where we tour a house and say, guess the price. So we do a little interactive on that. The other thing would be maybe to set up a watch party so that you go to all the people in your sphere of influence and say, hey, we're going to set up a watch party to do this particular open house, virtual open house. It's tougher when you can't, you know, we're used to having people come to open house, get their information, and turn around and show them houses. You're going to probably have fewer people to engage with in a virtual open house. But then again, you've got somebody, if they've stepped up to the plate in this market, they're definitely serious. But what sort of feedback would you guys give me on what you're doing for virtual open houses? Anything in particular that you guys are doing? Anybody?
Charlotte, I think you said a lot of the things that we have observed here. The watch parties have been a pretty good success. You know, obviously hosting virtual open houses and empty houses is really simple. And I love that you talk about the Facebook ads we run those through command.
Sure.
To get more people to hone in on that, engage the neighbors.
You know, I'm wondering too if it would be a good time to get our sellers, because who's better at selling a house as far as, I mean, depends on the personality, but many times the sellers themselves, they're the one that live there, they know about it. Could you not do a interview with them and say, okay, I'm interviewing Mr. and Mrs. Smith here, and you know, they're going to walk us through their home, and you know, this is where little Johnny dug the flowers up in the flower garden that time he wasn't supposed to. And sometimes for particular personalities, that can be engaging. I mean, you may have to script them ahead of time so they don't say something they shouldn't say from a fiduciary standpoint. But I think that's an opportunity as well.
I personally, in the past couple of weeks, have launched a YouTube channel.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah. I sat at Karen Carr's out of Savannah, Georgia, her breakout sessions at Family Reunion. Yeah. And I do a weekly video with Walkthrough Wednesdays. So kind of, you know, just a little bit different than a virtual open house, I guess. It's
awesome. And one of the girls, Katie, on my team does as well. If you'll check out, again, if you look for Charlotte Mabry Team, you can find our Facebook page and our team Facebook page. And then also I have a YouTube channel as well. So, you know, check that out. So thank you. That's awesome, Blake. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Add that. It's fantastic. Other questions? Anything come to mind that I can answer for you, or now that you've had a chance to think about, or things I've talked about that you'd have further questions on?
Around these virtual open houses, what have you found works best to generate interaction and generate those leads you can turn around and follow up on?
I would think some sort of contest, you know, even if it came down to giving away a $5 Starbucks card or something you could drive through, or maybe one of your vendors offered something, you know, a contest to guess the price. The thing is that really draws anybody, maybe not people who would really be buying. I think if you targeted maybe a vendor that said, hey, if you buy a house in the next 30 days, there's something legally that they can give them, or something they can offer. One of the things we used to do back in the day was, instead of adjusting the price, we would have our sellers pay the first payment for the buyer. So let's say that somebody buys a house at the end of April. Their first payment is not due until June, right? June 1st. So we would have them pay that June payment, so we could advertise right now, hey, buy this house, and there's no payments till July. And it's kind of that old silly car tactic or furniture tactic in selling things, but that draws some attention. We found back in the day, back in 2008, when you couldn't give a house away, that worked. People are interested in their payments. So that might be something that, hey, if you watch our video today and you register, you are one that get to have the opportunity to have the seller pay your first payment. Makes sense. Tabby, anything else that, you know? Okay, I see one, Lori. Okay. I still to get 2 listings 2 weeks prior to everything shut down. Now 1 is sitting and typically will sell in 14 days. Sellers are getting anxious. Okay. So you don't want to chase the market down from a pricing perspective, right? So price overcomes all objections, right, Lori? So ultimately we've got to make an adjustment in price. So I would either offer to do that payment thing. Hey, if you go under contract by the end of April, the seller's going to pay your first payment. And that's a whole lot cheaper for the seller than reducing the price. But otherwise, I think you'd have to look at some sort of a price adjustment, and you might do a virtual open house in conjunction with that. Hey, the sellers, man, they've lost their mind. They dropped the price $10,000, and let's talk about that. And so maybe put those things together.
Yeah, we did drop the price $15,000,
Gotcha.
and then we got a lowball offer, $100,000 less.
Good work, Lori.
Yeah.
Sellers cried.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
great example. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so now they've been out of the house for almost a month, so we could show it freely without them being there. And they're like, we are coming back Monday night.
Yeah.
Again, normally it would have been gone in 14 days. And we're getting positive feedback. It just hasn't been the right thing because I've only had 10 showings.
Right. Well, and there's being in the market, out of the market, but then there's that place between called no man's land. And we are really in no man's land. We don't know what to make of this. And honestly, I think the sellers, we're only 2 or 3 weeks into this. I think people are just going to have to suck it up, Buttercup, and wait this next 30 days and just let's see what happens with the market, then run from there. We don't have enough data. We're just speculating. It's just like on this virus thing, they shut the country down in some respects on speculation, right? Sorry, I'm getting political. I don't mean to. And, it's just, you look at this and go, wow, is there really grounds for this? So as a fiduciary for the seller, it might be better that they just sit tight for 30 days and just go, I wish I had an answer for this, but I don't. Let's get 30 days of data, then we know.
Are you talking about before you list it or after you listed it and it's not selling quickly to wait another 30 days?
I would say 30 days from right now. So she's
listed
it's already listed. It's already listed. And they've already dropped the price once. I think I would give it 30 days just because this is so unique right now. Then it's probably time to look at that and go, okay, the market is just not loving what we're doing. And it's going to take a drastic thing. So are you a seller that wants to sell or has to sell?
Lori, as soon as they move back in, you'll get an offer.
Absolutely.
That's what happen.
That's what it takes. If that's what it takes, back in. Sure. Absolutely. Tabby, did that get information that you needed? Anybody else, other questions that I make a stab at answering?
I've gotten some golden nuggets today, so yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Any other questions, guys? Again, Charlotte's been through 1 or 2 or 3 adjustments in the market. So we've not been through this kind. However, all adjustments in the market tend to be similar.
Yeah.
So,
Charlotte, I would like to ask what type of ads that your team is running on Facebook. I had to leave for a little bit because I had a client that I had to talk to off a ledge. So, so I needed to leave real quick. But I just wanted to kind of and I can obviously look at your Facebook team as well, or your team page, but just kind of wanted to get what kind of ads that you're all having good success out of.
Well, and I appreciate the question. It's a great question, Blake. Because we do so much business from our sphere of influence, we don't really advertise to them. We're just in front of them. So we have about 7,300 people on our team Facebook page. So anything we do there is in essence being in front of them. So I don't buy a lot of Facebook targeted ads. We'll do them from time to time if there's a neighborhood we're choosing to focus on. Okay. So I do very little Facebook advertising as far as buying ads.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Just work in your sphere right now. I mean, that's, again, they're captive just like us. And so if you've got a sphere or past clients or anything, this is a golden opportunity. They're desperate to talk to people, somebody other than their kids and their spouse, right? They're desperate to talk. And so now's the time to just call and say, hey, how's it going? What can I get for you? How does that make you feel? How are you guys feeling? By any chance, do you know of anybody that maybe their plans have changed because of the market? Well, maybe we can set an appointment that you and I can talk again and get an appointment for an appointment.
One thing that I did over the past week or so, and this is kind of to everybody, I don't know if anybody has during Bold signed up for AM cards. I definitely did. I sent out all of my past clients a card, just, and it was a funny just checking on you. And I've gotten so much response from it. Just
Awesome.
Thank you so much for that card. So if you got the time, guys,
Yeah.
stick some cards in the mail.
Yeah. And then that gives you something to call behind too. Hey, did you get my card?
Right.
Where you
That's
don't
what I'm
necessarily
doing
just have to
today
call.
and tomorrow and the rest of the week.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's great.
Hey, Blake, what is an AM card? What?
AM card is a website. It's a vendor that was sponsored the last Bold that I was in.
Oh, okay.
So it's a monthly membership, but you can do personalized greeting cards and that kind of thing.
Thank you.
Anything else you can think of?
Going once, going twice. We don't want
Charlotte,
to
thank you so much for taking the time out to do this for us.
Oh, you're welcome. This is the most fun thing I get to do all week. So I am honored that you would share your time with me. And I just kudos to all of you for taking time to do this. Even if we can't sell a house today, we can get smarter between the ears. And that makes us better at selling houses. And, trust me, your competitors out there, they don't have the wonderful opportunity that we do at KW. And we look at the companies. Did you see the Redfin and the EXP things where, they're shutting down, closing the doors on their agents? We have companies here in town that lock the doors and tell their agents, don't come back until we figure out what's going on. I mean, wow, so we have such an opportunity in the middle of what they think is a problem. I mean, you guys are going to you're rock stars anyway, but you're going to just come out of the chute flying when the curtains pull back up.
There's three words that are really, really important during this time and others. And that's go to work.
Yeah, do the work. Absolutely, do the work, right? We have to, and go to work. And not everybody's going to do that, right? This is the test, and this is really, we talked about it earlier, the fork in the road to determine whether you have what it takes or you don't have what it takes, because this will make or break many people's real estate career, right?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much, Ms. Charlotte.
You are more than welcome, Tabby. Thank you for giving me the opportunity today.
Yeah, we appreciate your time again. So thank
Well,
you.
we're in Chattanooga, and in the North Georgia area, we go all the way from Cleveland, Tennessee, all the way down to Dalton, Georgia. And so if you have anybody that needs to buy, sell, or whatever in our area, we'd be honored to handle a referral from you guys.
Great.
Is the restaurant over across the river called Finn's? Is it still open?
It is not. The Finn's family went out of business about 10 years ago. They opened another restaurant up in a little town called Dayton, up north of us. And unfortunately, that has closed as well. But pardon my English, they ain't no better food than Finn's was.
You're exactly right about that. I came from Chattanooga to Nashville.
Oh, okay, awesome,
So
fantastic.
I understand a little bit about your territory.
Well, that's great. Well, we are very fortunate to live where you do. You guys are as well. It's a lot different. My son went to school at Belmont, graduated from there, and the only way I could get him back was get him on staff as a director of ops. So now I have my grandchildren here. Yes. So it's all good.
Love it. All right, guys. As Dwayne likes to say, let's get to work, right?
Go to work.
Go to work.
Go to work. Thank you, Charlotte.
You're welcome. You guys have a rocking day.
Thank you
Good,
much.
ma'am. Thank you
You're
very
welcome.
much.
Bye-bye.